realizing the cost of emotional survival. Eventually, you come to realize that growth, real growth, often comes with a degree of pain. It's rare that personal development occurs when things are going smoothly. Life, at times, is filled with discomfort and sorrow. And the hope is that we can all push through it and emerge stronger on the other side. But there's another hope, one that often gets overlooked. The hope that we not only grow, but also learn to recognize and empathize with the pain in others. Sometimes, you may find yourself questioning who you really are, especially when things feel calm. You may feel like you only truly exist when there's a problem to solve, a silence to decode, or a situation to navigate. Peace feels comfortable for a while until it doesn't. Eventually, it starts to feel inauthentic, like a piece of you is missing, and you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You feel like you've missed something that everyone else can see, and suddenly, that calm becomes unsettling. You become anxious in stillness, uneasy when there's no drama, unsure of who you are when nothing is pulling you apart. It's not because you love the pain. Far from it. It's because you've conditioned yourself to function within it. You don't know what to do with peace. When things are good, a part of you goes into alert mode, searching for what's about to go wrong. It's like a reflex, searching for the hidden hook behind every kindness, the danger that might be lurking, the uncertainty you didn't prepare for. So you go back to what hurt you, not out of weakness, but because that discomfort feels like home. You respond to the messages that remind you of pain. You open the door to situations that empty you, not because you believe they'll change, but because not trying feels like abandonment. Not to them, but to the part of you that learned love means fixing what breaks you. You tell yourself you've grown, and you have. You can explain your patterns, your choices, your experiences in perfect, polished language. But when the moment comes, when the temptation to fall back into old patterns appears, you still choose the thing that cuts you. Not because you're blind, but because that repetition feels like control. Chaos, though painful, feels earned. You don't know how to exist in ease without feeling like you're slipping, without feeling that you must keep fighting to hold everything together. You've confused strength with endurance, love with self-sacrifice, maturity with silence, and healing with doing it all over again, just more politely. The truth is, tonight you find yourself facing your reflection, once again, looking for answers in a mirror that only gives you more questions. There's a quiet around you, but inside, the noise never stops. You question why you haven't already broken free, why clarity hasn't been enough, why awareness hasn't saved you. The truth is, it's not about what you know, it's about the deeper, hidden patterns of your heart, patterns woven into you long before you could understand them. These patterns don't make sense to others, and often, they don't make sense to you either. Society might label your actions as self-sabotage. Friends might call it weakness. But what if this return to old wounds isn't about being naive or helpless? What if it's actually a form of emotional survival? Repetition, compulsion and emotional survival. Sigmund Freud introduced the concept of repetition compulsion, the tendency to repeat painful experiences not because they are enjoyable, but because they are known. The human psyche craves familiarity, even when that familiarity involves suffering. It seems irrational, but it's a deeply ingrained survival strategy, formed early in life, when the unknown was far more terrifying than predictable pain. Consider a woman who repeatedly finds herself in toxic relationships. On the surface, it seems like she hasn't learned from her past. It seems like she's unaware or indifferent to the pain she's stepping back into. But beneath that surface is a complex emotional strategy. The chaos, the rejection, the constant turbulence, while painful, are familiar. They are manageable. They feel like something she knows how to navigate, like a rhythm she's been dancing to for years. Vulnerability, however, real vulnerability, feels like stepping off a cliff into the unknown. The idea of true intimacy, of connection without the chaos, may feel more threatening than the familiar pain. Each message she answers, each boundary she erases, isn't because she enjoys the turmoil. It's her nervous system's way of maintaining control. It's as if her subconscious believes that it's better to face the devil she knows than risk the unknown. She isn't blindly repeating mistakes. She's navigating life using a deeply ingrained emotional map, one that was created long before she understood what she truly deserved. This pattern isn't an oversight. It's a calculated decision, even if unconscious. She knows how to anticipate the worst. She knows how to protect herself within pain's parameters. She knows how to survive in emotionally hostile climates. But nobody taught her how to trust joy, to trust safety, or to trust comfort without cost. So, she returns to places that hurt, not because they nourish her, but because they feel predictable. The paradox of familiar pain. The paradox here is profound. The very strategies that once ensured emotional survival are the same ones that now block the possibility of genuine happiness. Breaking free from these patterns isn't just about being aware of them. She has plenty of awareness. The real challenge lies in redefining what safety means to her. It's about retraining her emotional instincts to trust peace as much as she trusts pain. Recognizing this truth can transform self-judgment into compassion, replacing shame with understanding. She isn't weak or foolish. She's resilient, resourceful, and fiercely intelligent. She's simply caught in the sophisticated machinery of emotional survival, navigating through the emotional complexities of her past. As strange as it may sound, sometimes pain feels safer than peace. But why? To understand this, we must go back to childhood, to the silent roots beneath our emotional choices. Gabor Mate famously said, "Trauma isn't what happens to you, it's what happens inside you." The deepest wounds often don't appear as bruises or scars. They're invisible, imprinted in the subtle language of how you learned love. The emotional blueprint, formed in childhood. In childhood, love was the first language you learned, but the lessons were not always gentle or consistent. Affection might have come mixed with tension, unpredictability, and shifting conditions that made safety feel out of reach. Over time, without conscious awareness, you began to associate intimacy with anxiety, closeness with unease, and love with the quiet fear of never being enough. Your emotional blueprint was formed in that instability, making peace feel unfamiliar and even empty compared to the heightened urgency of chaos. Consider the woman who finds herself most alive in chaotic relationships, mistaking turbulence for passion, intensity for intimacy. For her, calm moments feel suspiciously empty, as if something vital is missing. She doesn't consciously choose drama. She chooses familiarity, guided by a deeper belief that love always carries a cost. The thrill she experiences isn't joy. It's her nervous system recognizing and replaying its earliest definitions of connection. The mind confuses chaos with vitality because it's the only kind of affection she has known deeply. This isn't a flaw, it's adaptation, a protective mechanism developed early on when confusion and unpredictability became normalized. Now, as an adult, stability feels foreign, even threatening. Peace isn't boring, it's just unfamiliar. Choosing familiarity over vulnerability. She doesn't cling to anguish because she enjoys suffering. She clings to it because beneath the hurt, there's a strange sense of belonging, a resonance with the love she first learned. When you repeat something often enough, it becomes more than a habit. It becomes who you are. Carl Jung described these deeply ingrained patterns as unconscious complexes, emotional frameworks so powerful that they quietly define our identity. Take, for instance, the woman everyone calls strong. She's the reliable one, the friend who handles crisis calmly, the daughter who never crumbles under pressure. From the outside, her strength appears admirable, almost heroic. But behind that resilience lies something far less visible, an identity sculpted by repeated emotional injuries. Early on, she learned that vulnerability meant danger, that expressing pain was met with dismissal or shame. So, strength became her mask, a protective armor, shielding her from rejection. What once served as a survival tactic eventually transformed into her entire persona. Now, she no longer knows how to exist outside that role. It's not just that she handles pain well. Pain itself has become a fundamental part of her story. If you were to ask her who she is, she might answer with pride that she is someone who endures, who never breaks, who thrives in adversity. But hidden within that pride is an unconscious admission. Without struggle, she wouldn't know herself. If things were easy, if she didn't have to fight, who would she be? Fear of losing control. The thought of that unsettles her. It creates anxiety, a sense of losing control. This unconscious identity binds her to suffering. She doesn't intentionally seek pain, yet finds herself perpetually drawn into circumstances that reaffirm her strength. Unconsciously, she chooses difficult relationships, stressful environments, overwhelming responsibilities, not because she enjoys the strain, but because they reinforce her familiar role. To release this pattern, she would have to confront the terrifying possibility of redefining herself. She would have to discover an identity beyond endurance, beyond resilience. The truth is, the self that emerges from repetitive pain isn't fake or weak. It's simply incomplete. It's a partial self shaped under pressure, limited by survival. Jung's insight was profound. Until we make these unconscious complexes conscious, they will keep steering our lives invisibly. Understanding that you became strong not purely by choice, but by necessity, can offer a powerful opportunity to consciously build an identity that includes joy as much as resilience, ease as much as breaking the illusion of control. Ultimately, the question isn't just whether you're strong enough to endure pain, but whether you're brave enough to find out who you could be without it. Stepping away from pain seems simple on the surface. Why wouldn't you just leave behind what hurts you? But the moment you begin to unravel those well-worn patterns, a different kind of fear emerges. It's not the fear of being hurt again, but something deeper and more unsettling. The fear of emptiness, of facing a version of yourself that exists beyond the limits of the suffering you've always known. Imagine spending your entire life within the walls of a house filled with constant noise, conflict, and unpredictability. It's exhausting. Yet, it's home. Every corner, every sound, painful as they might be, unknown territory. You've learned to navigate these rooms effortlessly, accustomed to maneuvering through chaos. Then suddenly, the noise stops. The house becomes still. At first, you might feel relief, but quickly, this silence grows uncomfortable. It's too open, too unfamiliar. Without the familiar chaos, you start to question your place. Who are you? If you're no longer reacting to something external, that emptiness, that unsettling quiet, isn't just boredom or peace. It's an existential void. The fear of embracing peace. You realize, without those familiar struggles, you feel lost. The silence isn't just silence. It's a question you don't know how to answer. It raises a question you've rarely dared to face. Who am I without my wounds? Without those constant emotional battles, without the identity of the fighter, the survivor, the rescuer, who remains? The possibility of discovering nothing there, of encountering a self unanchored by the pain, becomes terrifying. The quietness feels like a threat, a silence that seems louder than any chaos ever could be. It's not that peace is inherently frightening. It's that peace demands a vulnerability you've never had the luxury to develop. And in this silence, you realize the hurt wasn't just something you endured. It shaped the structure of your inner world. Discomfort was predictable, manageable, even strangely reassuring in its familiarity. Without it, you're suddenly thrust into an uncertain landscape with no emotional landmarks to guide you. This unknown territory feels more threatening than returning to distress, because at least that kind of suffering had definition, clear edges, ingrained triggers, expected responses. This emptiness, however, feels like a slow disappearance, a fading of self. But it's not emptiness in the way you fear. It's space unclaimed, unfamiliar, but full of possibility. Not absence, but potential. The power of releasing the past. Stepping away from pain isn't simply about rejecting suffering. It's about embracing uncertainty. It's about standing in that initially uncomfortable silence long enough to discover who you can become when your identity isn't shaped by chaos. Yes, it might feel disorienting, even frightening. But beyond that, fear lies a profound opportunity. A chance not merely to survive, but to genuinely live, to build yourself a new identity that's not defined by endurance, but by authenticity, joy, and ease. This shift isn't immediate. It starts gently through small, intentional decisions that defy your emotional script. You pause before responding. You question impulses that feel automatic. You dare to choose differently, even when anxiety whispers warnings. Gradually, the illusion fades, replaced by authentic empowerment. This transformation is born not from predictability, but from your ability to embrace uncertainty and thrive within it. Your body holds onto experiences long after your mind believes it has moved on. Every emotion you've suppressed, every heartbreak you've quietly endured, hasn't vanished. They've been carefully stored, written deep into your muscles, your breath, your bones. The body becomes a silent archive, meticulously documenting each trauma, each moment of emotional suppression, every subtle betrayal of your true self. Listening to your body's stories. Science confirms what intuition has always hinted. The body keeps the score. When emotional wounds go unresolved, they don't simply fade, they transform into physical sensations, tension, and chronic discomfort. Your muscles become tight, perpetually braced for threats that never seem to arrive. Your breath shortens, shallow, as if permanently preparing for flight. Sleep becomes elusive, disrupted not by nightmares, but by an internal restlessness, a hyper-alertness to threats long gone, yet vividly felt. Consider the woman who outwardly appears calm and collected. Inside, however, her body quietly signals turmoil. Her shoulders are tense constantly, carrying burdens she's long forgotten consciously. Her jaw clenches habitually, holding back words she never dared speak. Her stomach tightens, responding anxiously to invisible threats that echo from past traumas. Anxiety visits her seemingly out of nowhere, not sparked by immediate danger, but by buried memories her nervous system still recognizes, still braces against. These patterns aren't random, they're remnants of emotional survival. When emotional expression feels dangerous or unwelcome, your body absorbs what your voice can't articulate. Anger turns inward, creating tension. Sadness settles deeply, manifesting as fatigue or heaviness. Suppressed fear becomes insomnia, anxiety, and a relentless sense of unease. Healing through awareness and action. Over time, your physical self becomes the bearer of truths your conscious mind struggles to acknowledge. Recognizing your body as a living archive changes how you relate to yourself. Instead of viewing physical symptoms as isolated issues, you begin to see them as clues, valuable messages from parts of yourself that have been silenced for too long. Healing, therefore, isn't just psychological. It must also happen through the body. It's about learning to listen closely to physical sensations, trusting that every ache, every inexplicable discomfort holds a story, waiting patiently to be heard. This process can be painful initially, as confronting stored trauma means feeling emotions your body long suppressed. Healing isn't a dramatic event. It's not a sudden breakthrough or a single moment of clarity. Real transformation happens quietly through the countless small choices you make every day. Choices so subtle you might overlook their importance, yet these seemingly minor decisions are precisely the ones that reshape your emotional landscape, slowly guiding you away from familiar pain toward a life defined by genuine well-being. The power of small choices in healing. Imagine each small decision as a single stitch in the larger tapestry of your healing. Alone, each stitch appears insignificant, barely noticeable. Yet, as they accumulate, a clearer pattern emerges, revealing something beautiful, stable, and whole. Each choice is powerful precisely because it disrupts the unconscious patterns you followed for years. Gently, but persistently, redefining your path. Consider the simplicity and power of deciding not to immediately respond to a message that fills your chest with anxiety. On its surface, this seems trivial. A pause, a brief hesitation. But within that pause lies profound power. It interrupts the automatic urge to please, to engage, to surrender your peace. It affirms your agency, quietly declaring that your emotional health matters more than immediate comfort or fleeting approval. Similarly, learning to say no without guilt carries remarkable transformative potential. Every no is a quiet boundary being drawn, a gentle reclaiming of space you've habitually given away. Each refusal to overcommit or sacrifice yourself for another's emotional comfort signals something powerful to your subconscious. Your needs are important, your boundaries deserve respect, and your self-worth no longer hinges on external validation. This isn't selfishness, it's essential self-care. Prioritizing self-care goes deeper than moments of relaxation or indulgence. It's about consistently choosing actions that honor your emotional needs. It's choosing rest over relentless productivity, silence over meaningless chatter, authenticity over people-pleasing. It's deciding day by day to nurture yourself as you would someone you deeply care about, slowly rewriting the emotional script you've lived by. These micro-choices form the backbone of genuine healing, precisely because they shift your emotional landscape incrementally, making the unfamiliar feel normal and the healthy feel safe. The process of rebuilding the self. Over time, these tiny adjustments become ingrained, transforming into habits and eventually into a new identity, one built consciously rather than by painful default. Understand that true healing isn't about moments of dramatic change. It's It's about consistency, patience, and trust in the process. You're not simply abandoning old patterns overnight, you're gradually cultivating new ones. Each choice a small yet significant step toward emotional freedom. This continuous journey might feel slow, even frustrating at times. But remember, profound transformation doesn't occur instantly. It's built in moments when you courageously choose yourself again and again, even in small, quiet ways. And when you look back, you'll see clearly every subtle choice, every gentle refusal, every compassionate pause was a powerful step toward becoming the version of yourself you've always deserved to be. Stepping beyond pain to find true freedom. Stepping away from known pain leaves you standing on uncertain ground, raw, vulnerable, and exposed. You've spent so long defined by survival, resilience, and endurance that without those patterns, you might find yourself asking, perhaps for the first time, who am I without the struggle? Who am I beyond the identity carved from old wounds? It can feel disorienting, even frightening, to realize how deeply your sense of self has been shaped by pain. Yet, this very question is the beginning of genuine transformation. It's not simply about removing what hurts. It's about consciously building something new, something stronger, something genuinely yours. Imagine yourself standing before an old house, a structure you've inhabited your entire life. It's familiar, but damaged. The walls, though patched up countless times, still bear cracks from past storms. The foundations, built quickly out of necessity, tremble with every new challenge. Living inside feels tense, exhausting, unstable, but it's still your home, and leaving it behind is daunting. Now imagine deciding to rebuild. Not just repaint or patch the cracks, but truly reconstruct, laying new foundations intentionally brick by brick. This isn't a quick fix or surface repair, it's a commitment to stability and growth. You choose stronger materials, build deeper foundations, create spaces intentionally designed to hold peace, joy, and comfort, qualities you've never fully known, but deeply deserve. Reconstructing your identity. This metaphor isn't abstract. It's the process of rediscovering yourself beyond old patterns. The old walls represent your past identity, built from survival tactics. The cracks symbolize unresolved trauma and hidden wounds you've carried silently. The decision to rebuild reflects courage, the courage to dismantle old beliefs about who you had to be, and the bravery to explore who you could become. This reconstruction isn't linear or simple. At times, it might feel overwhelming, even painful, to tear down what's familiar. You might grieve what you're leaving behind, even if it hurt you deeply. But gradually, through compassion, patience, and curiosity, you begin to discover new aspects of yourself. Passions that once seemed out of reach, boundaries that feel natural rather than forced, a voice confident enough to speak without fear or hesitation. Each new discovery adds strength to your foundation. Slowly, you recognize your authentic self emerging, not defined by endurance, but by authenticity, vulnerability, and self-compassion. You no longer exist merely as someone who survives pain, but as someone who actively creates joy, peace, and meaning. As your new self takes shape, you realize the beauty isn't just in the finished structure, but in the process itself. You're not merely leaving pain behind, you're actively choosing something better, something brighter. You are deliberately crafting a space within yourself that feels truly yours. A sanctuary built not on shaky ground, but on solid, conscious decisions. Building a life guided by authenticity. Rebuilding yourself isn't about erasing the past, but honoring it by choosing a future no longer limited by old wounds. It's about understanding that who you become next, stronger, clearer, more fully alive, is entirely yours to define. And perhaps in the quiet strength of this realization, you'll find the deepest freedom you've ever known. You won't wake up one day and feel fully healed. There's no specific moment where everything shifts, but something changes. You stop confusing intensity with love. You start noticing when you're about to repeat a pattern, and sometimes you choose not to. That question is a sign of progress. The difference shows up in the hesitation, in the moment when you ask yourself, do I actually want this, or is it just what I know? That question isn't weakness, it's agency. It means you're no longer just reacting, you're starting to act with intention. You might still get pulled back. You might still feel the urge to return to what hurts. But now, there's a space between the trigger and your response. And in that space, real choice becomes possible. This concludes the final part of the rewrite. It should now be consistent with the structure you requested, with a clear narrative progression and emotional depth. Let me know if you'd like any further adjustments or additions.